Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Talking About Balls. I am Justin George, flying the ship solo tonight. Kyle could not be here, unfortunately. He had a work function. He is down south again in a hotel with a cuck chair. They're trying to lock up a client. I don't know if I'm at liberty to discuss the client. It's a pretty big deal. Would be very good for him. So they are, of course, in Southern Ohio fashion. They are all out to a nice dinner at Skyline Chili to seal the deal and eat some chili dogs and some spaghetti with chili and cheese, and they are going to shake hands afterwards before they even use a wet nap, and that's how a good old-fashioned Southern Ohio deal is done. So kudos to him. Good luck for him and his dinner that he's got going on tonight with a client, and he'll be with us next time, probably. I'd have to look. I assume we're going to go every other week. I don't even know. Schedules get weird in the off season because it's kind of like a free for all. It's kind of slow. So if we have shit going on, as you saw a couple weeks ago, I willingly said no show, fuck sports. I think were my exact words. I was pretty angry. And that was after the Cavs blew the game 2 of the series against the Pacers, the 20-point lead, the failure to box out, the failure of the NBA to call a lane violation, and so on and so forth. We'll get to all that. But I was pissed. You guys know me. I've said it a million times. I mean it wholeheartedly. I hate losing more than I like winning. A loss in a huge moment feels worse than a win in a big moment. For me, that's just how it goes. I look at it this way. If you're a professional athlete, you're a sports team, whatever, your job is to go out there and win. That's what you're supposed to do. You're paid to be one of the best athletes in the world. So when you win, you just did your job. When you lose, you failed your job. And that's what pisses me off more than anything. When you win, it's like, okay, you were supposed to do that. That's why you're a paid professional athlete. I get it. There can only be one winner and one loser for the most part, unless you're soccer or the NFL. And there are ties, apparently. But there shouldn't be ties in sports. There should be a clear-cut winner and a clear-cut loser. And you know, again, when a team that I like loses, I hate it. It pisses me off more than anything. It ruins my day. For instance, for the Browns, it ruins my week. There are literal whole weeks that are just ruined because the Browns shit the bed in a game, and it takes me a while to get over it. But yeah, that Cavs loss a couple weeks ago, I'm not going to lie to you, I was a little cocky. I was a little confident. I kind of thought we'd be strolling in here on that Wednesday night to do a show talking about the Cavs being up 2-0 over the Indiana Pacers. They instead were down 2-0. And the first loss, okay. Second loss, again, blew a 20-point lead and gave up I think like 8 or 9 points or something like that in the final like 45 seconds to lose the game. And I was irate. I immediately messaged the boys in the group chat and I said, no show tomorrow. Fuck sports. I'm pissed. Like, I don't even want to talk about it. So that's exactly what happened. We skipped it. But anyway, this is the BS segment, of course. So I will get into the Cavs and everything as the time comes. But again, shout out to Kyle. He is doing work. He's been gracious enough to work around his schedule to jump on here. You know, I'm sure he's exhausted on the show when you see him, scarfing down some late night Chinese food, looking all disheveled. So tonight couldn't be done. And I totally get it. When you're traveling for work, just shit happens. I know I've talked about it a few weeks ago that I've been really into drinking Aperol spritzes. So I found a new concoction that's a little cheaper and not as good, but pretty good. This is my version of an Aperol spritz that I call the Parma spritz. It's actually called the poor man's spritz, but I've dubbed it the Parma spritz as a proud Parma alum. What an Aperol spritz is, for those of you that don't know, is 1/3 Prosecco, 1/3 Aperol, and 1/3 seltzer water. That's it. You throw it on some ice, maybe garnish it with an orange, whatever. That's an Aperol spritz. They're fucking delicious. To each their own. I get it. There are plenty of people out there that don't like them. I do. I'm a big fan of them. I think they're a really nice summer drink on a hot day. You drink one down. They're good. When you buy all the ingredients, though, if you buy name brand stuff, it gets expensive. I buy the off-brand shit from Aldi. Still adds up. In the grand scheme of things, I buy a bottle of Aperol is like $6.99, and I buy a bottle of the cheap dry champagne or whatever, the dry brut, whatever the fuck it's called, from Aldi, and the seltzer water. You're looking at, give or take, $10 to $15 to get all the ingredients, and that'll make you a handful of drinks, which is not a bad deal, but you're only getting like maybe 3 or 4 or maybe 5 out of them. Not terrible, but doing a Parma spritz, saves even more because a Parma Spritz is a light beer of your choice. It's technically supposed to be made with a Miller High Life. I use Busch Light. Then you put a little bit of lemon juice, and then you top it off with Aperol. That's it. Nice and cheap, nice and easy, and just as delicious. So cheers, everybody, if you're having a cold one on this fine Wednesday evening. Life for me has been busy, but in a good way. We went down to Columbus a few weeks ago. We went down to IKEA. We had Mother's Day last Sunday, almost 2 weeks ago. I had a tree fall down in my backyard. I cut the grass from start to finish, at least so I thought it was start to finish, because I then found out that I have even more property in the back over this hill that I didn't know was mine. So I had to go cut that. Basically, my yard just keeps growing and becoming more of a daunting task to cut, but it is what it is. And so I took care of that. Been doing a lot of yard work. We had the tree that fell down. My father-in-law and my wife's uncle came over with a chainsaw. We cut it down, got a shitload of firewood. That took the day. And then last Sunday, my father-in-law came over again, and we rearranged my fire pit in the back. We moved it because it's just bricks. So we just moved all the bricks to another spot, widened it out a little bit, had a nice big-ass fire going on Sunday. It was a good time. We're just burning some wood that fell down, some scrap wood and shit like that. Overall, been super busy, been super manly. And everybody knows how manly I am and masculine, and I'm out there doing, hucking trees over my shoulder like fucking Arnold Schwarzenegger and Commando and all that fun stuff. But we're getting a lot done here at the house. We're cleaning up the yard, getting everything ready for the summer. And, again, had Mother's Day, had a nice day. Sorry, I'm on my phone only to share the show. I don't want you guys to think I'm like texting and driving here. You guys know the drill. Let me just do that all really quick. The Softness Part 3 starts now. Thank you for watching. That's what I say every week because I am thankful for anybody that watches. So I'll get that shared right away. And but yeah, we had Mother's Day. It was a pretty cool one. Tara's second with Teddy. And it was nice. We went out to Saturday night. It was the same day we cut up that tree. Saturday night, we went out for Mother's Day for my mom. We went to a Mexican restaurant, and we enjoyed that. And then on Sunday for Tara, I initially had a big day planned. I had a nice big day of, I was going to get up and take her to a brunch that had unlimited bottomless mimosas. Let her get all drunk on mimosas. We'd have a nice breakfast cooked for us so I don't have to do any work. And then we'd come home, chill, do whatever, and then maybe go out to dinner or something like that as well. She didn't want that. She wanted all homemade love and care put into the food. So that's exactly what I had to do. I had to, I pretty much was. I just, aside from wearing a flannel, I was Paul Bunyan out there. I was wearing basketball shorts because it's pretty hot. But if it were a little cooler out there, I would have been out there in maybe some suspenders, a flannel, grew my beard out a little bit. But so for breakfast, she had me make her a breakfast skillet that I make. That's just potatoes, eggs, bacon, chorizo. I threw a little sausage in it this time, and you throw it. You cook everything. You cook everything on the stove a little bit, then you throw it in a big cast iron skillet, and then you put it in the oven, cook it all, and finish it up. It's a good skillet. I make it all the time. She wanted that, and then on top of that, to be nice for dinner, I made her one of her favorite things is she likes smash burgers. So I finally got to use the new Blackstone. I made smash burgers for her, and they came out pretty good. Big fan. It was easy to use the Blackstone, truthfully. It was easy to clean up. I look forward to using it again. It's just the weather's been kind of shitty. We had a couple nice days here and there, but I haven't had time to do anything. And then it's looking like rain for like the next week. So typical Cleveland in May. What are you going to do? Anyway, so yeah, we did all that. And then last week was, of course, the Wednesday that we definitely couldn't record because I had tickets to see Louis C.K., who is my favorite comedian of all time, my number one on Mount Rushmore in my personal opinion. And he was coming to Cleveland for a special show because it is Hilarities. If you're not familiar with Hilarities, that's the comedy club downtown on East 4th. And Hilarities, it's their 40th anniversary this month or whatever. So they've been having a lot of specials and doing a lot of cool shit. And they happen to have Louis C.K. coming to town. And a couple months ago, they announced the show. And I get, the emails right away. And the first thing I did was screenshot it, send it to Tara, and said, tell your siblings right now if they want tickets. I'm buying them right now. And I'm not fucking around because this shit's going to sell out in like 10 minutes. Sure enough, sold out really quick. I was able to get enough tickets for everybody. And we all went to the show, had a great time. He was pretty good, if I had to be honest about it. Not his best, but I do understand the business. I'm a huge fan of stand-up comedy, so I understand the ins and outs. And he is in the early stages of a new special, or a new hour, they call it. And that's why he's doing smaller shows like Hilarities, or smaller venues, I should say. When you get your material a little better constructed, I guess would be the best way to put it. That's when you go to the theater. So you play a little bit of a bigger venue. You do your full hour to keep, make sure it's fresh, and then you record it and you make a special. Of course, again, he's in the early stages of this new material, I'm guessing, because it was good. It just wasn't the classic Louis that I'm used to. So either he's slipping or he is early in some material and he'll get better. Steve, what's up, dude? Thank you for checking in. Flying the ship solo today so Kyle can do a work dinner at Skyline Chili down in Southern Ohio, Kentucky border area. But yeah, so I saw Louis C.K. last Wednesday, I'm sorry, and it was good. Again, not his best. I've seen him, I don't even know, 5+ times. I really don't remember. I've lost count. Probably the least funny, but again, not bad. I don't want to sound like I'm bashing him, but again, it just wasn't his A-game shit. I've seen him at Hilarities, I think, twice. Well, now 3 times. And I've seen him in theaters probably 2 or 3 times. What's the parlay for tonight? Casey, that's a good question. I'm not going to lie, I threw some good money on the Mariners earlier to beat the White Sox. I think I got them for like -175, which was pretty good for the Seattle Mariners taking on the Chicago White Sox. Parlay, it's really tough to say because it's game 1 of a fresh series. The Pacers have been off for nearly a week, and the Knicks are coming off a decent ass whipping of the Boston Celtics. I mean, I think they took them to 6 games or whatever, or 5. Was it 6? Yeah, it was 6, I think. But whatever. I think that I'm not touching the game tonight or a parlay tonight because I really don't have a good vibe on anything. I got to kind of see how it goes. Game 1s are scary. That's where you could see a blowout one way or the other, or you could see a really off night from a typically good player. I like to stay away from game 1s. I like to let guys get a feel for everything. I know that's dangerous, but I would say, did the game already start? I threw also a little bit of coin down on the Phillies. Phillies are in Colorado. Colorado's the worst team in baseball, technically. Phillies pretty good. And I don't know what happened unless I missed a lineup adjustment, but the Phillies were... Actually, the game starts at 8:40, so if you got time. On my website that I use, I got the Phillies for -160 on that site, BetUS, that I'm trying to dig myself out of. I got them for like -165 or something like that, so I threw some good money on the Phillies because I think I don't know why it was so cheap. Now I'm seeing ESPN showing it back to -200 plus, but I got it at 165, which I'll take that all day. And for a parlay, I got nothing. Tonight. Maybe do an easy one. If I had to go off the top of my head, I would probably say take Tyrese Halliburton for 8 assists. I would take Jalen Brunson for 4 assists. I would take Karl Anthony Towns. Give me Cat for 8 rebounds. Give me Mitchell Robinson for 6 rebounds. And then that's kind of it. I'd maybe go, just to spice it up a little bit, give me 2 assists from TJ McConnell. And then that would probably round out my parlay. Truthfully, I'm very nervous because you had guys that I was listening to Brian Windhurst the other day talking about the Pacers, and he was saying how, the Cavs got embarrassed. We'll talk about all that, but the Pacers had guys who in the regular season shot like 25%, 30% from 3, shooting near 50%. So expecting that to not carry over in the series is what makes me nervous. Again, it could be a blowout one way or the other. The Cavs just met the Pacers at the worst time, and the Cavs picked the worst time to be ice cold from the field. And the Pacers, we happen to find them at a spot where they were red hot. Because, again, these are guys that consistently through the season, they played 82 games. They're consistent. You know who they are as a shooter. And you have guys like, I think it was Andrew Nembhard, if I'm not mistaken, I believe. Or maybe it was MacArthur, however you say it, MacArthur. It was one of those guys. I can't remember who he said it. It's going to drive me crazy. But Brian Windhurst, again, he was saying that, yeah, I mean, I agree. But I look at it, too, though, Steve, is the Pacers. This is 2 years in a row now. The Pacers have been in the Eastern Conference Finals. They beat the Knicks last year. I know the Knicks were beat up when they met in the playoffs. But to me, this kind of makes me think the Pacers aren't as bad as everybody kind of thought when they went into the Cavs series because, again, 2 years in a row they've been in the Eastern Conference Finals. That's something. Yeah, Mathurin, that's who it is. I always want to call him MacArthur, but Benedict Mathurin. I think it was him or it was Nembhard, one of the two. Windhurst was saying shot, in the regular season, like 33% or 30%, whatever. And in the series against the Cavs, shot over 40%, near 50, which is, in NBA terms, that's crazy. When you're hitting, basically an extra 3 or 2 out of every 10 shots, that's key. That's huge. You go from a guy who might average 10 points to a guy who's averaging nearly 20 points. That's tremendous in the playoffs. So again, I'll talk all about that. I have a long list of shit I want to talk about the Cavs. I've had a week now to get over it. I was really pissed when it first ended. I still have hard feelings about it that I still plan on talking about, but there are some harsh realities that we have to go over to be realistic because of the new CBA deal and how the Cavs are a second apron team. So just some cold, hard truths Cavs fans are going to have to accept whether they like it or not, and we'll get into all that. But yeah, for the BS segment, not a whole lot other than that. I mean, I just doing shit around the house. We're getting ourselves situated for summer. Had Mother's Day. Teddy's doing great. Teddy had her 18-month checkup today, or 15-month checkup today. I'm sorry. We scheduled her 18-month. Sorry, I'm aging her a little bit. 15-month checkup today went great. She got a couple boosters and vaccines and shit. She cried for like 2 minutes and then she was cool. She's like 2.5 feet tall. She is 20 pounds. She's getting pretty big. It's funny because everyone looks at her and they're always like, oh my God, you're so tall. I can't believe how tall she is. And they look at me and it's like, I'm 6'5". Like, what the fuck? What do you expect? It's possible that kids take after their parents. It's kind of how they got made. I'm just glad she's not a little short person like Tara's family. I tower over all them. So it's nice to have a little height on my side. But at any rate, yeah, not a whole lot. Went to see Louis. That was really my highlight. I was also expecting to be a little more upbeat and excited for the Cavaliers to be in the Eastern Conference Finals, but that's just not the case. They lost 4-1 to the Pacers. So here we sit to do the show and to talk all about it. So game 1 rolls around and the Cavs come in banged up. Darius Garland gets that toe injury against the Heat, misses 2 games. Darius Garland then comes to the vent. Darius Garland then misses a couple games against the Pacers. In game 1, the Pacers were extremely physical, and they, of course, injured DeAndre Hunter. They injured Evan Mobley with some dirty, cheap plays, if I'm going to be honest with you. And, the series is over, so this is not crying over spilled milk. This is just, again, I'm going to be spitting some cold, hard truths here. Game 1. I think we all can agree, even every fucking announcer that works for TNT or whatever channel it was, admitted that play that DeAndre Hunter got hurt on from Benedict Mathurin was a foul. He literally pushed him. No call. They reviewed it, and they actually, not only did they reverse the call and say that or not reverse it, they said no foul. They then said, oh yeah, by the way, it was off Hunter, so it's also going to be Pacers ball. So you lose your challenge, your player breaks his thumb, or dislocates his thumb, and then you also lose possession. Okay? End of the game. Towards the end of the game, Evan Mobley shoots a little, jumper in the paint. Miles Turner slides his foot right underneath Evan Mobley's landing zone. Evan Mobley lands on his ankle, or on his foot, rolls his ankle. He misses game 2. Same thing. That's a foul in the NBA. That's actually a flagrant foul in the NBA. When you don't give a guy room to land, that is a flagrant foul because it's extremely dangerous and causes injuries. Exhibit A, Evan Mobley. So what happens? No whistles, nothing. They let the game go on. Evan Mobley is then hurt. Evan Mobley misses game 2. Okay, we're really fucked rolling into game 2. The Cavs lose game 1, by the way. Spoiler alert. They made a pretty decent comeback attempt, but they were just never able to put them over the top, so they lose game 1. Game 2, Cavs come out without Evan Mobley. Cavs come out without Darius Garland and without DeAndre Hunter. All 3 out. They were listed as questionable leading up to the game. I believe during game 1, one of the sideline reporter dudes was like, oh yeah, Darius Garland said, he's for sure playing Tuesday or whatever. I think it was Tuesday night, yeah. He's like, he's for sure playing on Tuesday, whatever. And then Tuesday rolls around, and an hour before the game, they say, Evan Mobley out, Darius Garland out, fucking Evan Mobley out, DeAndre Hunter out. Everybody was out. I then, of course, that morning, I'm not going to lie, it's blood money. I'm not going to lie to you, though. The Cavs were a favorite in that game before all these announcements came out. So I threw a little cash on the Pacers because I was like, there's no way these guys are playing. Sure enough, they're ruled out. The Cavs lose the game because of a last-second three-pointer from Tyrese Halliburton. We'll get to that. So again, blood money. I won the bet. Not happy about it, though. I even texted my friends before the game started, and I said I've never wanted to lose a bet more in my life. And the Cavs get up to like a 20-point lead. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm losing some money, but whatever. The Cavs are going to win. They're going to even the series. They're going to go to Indiana, and they're going to be tied 1-1. Let's go. And then the end of the game happens. Again, you can't fault just the refs because the Cavs did blow a 20-point lead. That happened. Not just at the fault of the referees. But then you get into the final 48 seconds or whatever it was. Cavs have a 7-point lead. Game's pretty much in the fucking bag, right? You're looking at the score, 7 points. The Cavs then struggle to inbound the ball. I don't know how this is something you're taught as a child in basketball. To inbound the basketball, you have 5 seconds. You're taught as a child, fucking push off if you have to, but legally, obviously, don't commit a foul. But get separation. They can't hold you. They can't foul you. So you're allowed to move around, and if they get in your way, let them foul you. Cavs couldn't get open. They couldn't inbound the ball. One of the instances, Max Strus literally just lobbed the ball up to the Pacers to steal it, which it's like, in hindsight, I get it, hindsight's 2020, but I'm looking at this going, throw it off their fucking body. If it hits their body and bounces away, and it's even, somehow it's out of bounds, but it's our ball further away from the basket, whatever, who cares? You're taking time off the clock. Instead, he just fucking lobs it right up. Pacers take the ball, drive down, score. I think they got an and one or whatever on this one possession. So they go to the free throw line. Yeah, I think that was the exact play. They go to the free throw line. They get an and one. They shoot the free throw. As they're shooting the free throw, Donovan Mitchell goes up to get the rebound because it's a miss, and he gets crushed with a putback dunk from, I think it might have been Mathurin. I forgot which exact Pacer it was, but whoever the fuck. A, lane violation. Moved way before the ball he was supposed to. B, over the back. I believe that's still a thing in the NBA. Could have just done the body contact was enough to be a whistle. Nothing. Good putback dunk for the Pacers. So they get what should have been a 3-point play or a 2-point play turned into a 4-point play. Okay. Donovan Mitchell's pissed. Inbound the ball again. Donovan Mitchell gets it, spins around, swings an elbow. Offensive foul. Pacers get the ball right back. Okay. Things aren't going very well. Long review series. Took forever because they were going to possibly look at it being a flagrant for Mitchell because of how aggressive he swung the elbow. Nothing. It was a legal play, but still an offensive turnover nonetheless. Pacers score again, whatever. Oh, no, this was the play that I'm sorry. Tyrese Halliburton then gets another and one. Hits the and one, whatever. Makes it a 1-point game. Goes to the free throw line, misses the free throw, gets his own rebound because of another lane violation, and then dribbles the ball out. Everyone and their brother knows he's going to do it. Shoots a 3, splash, less than a second to go. Game over, Cavs lose. Last second shot from Tyrese Halliburton. Now, it really pisses me off here in this instance, and again, I don't want to only solely blame the referees, but you have a situation where it's clear as day that some of these things needed to be called and some of these decisions by the referees were fucking awful. So what does the NBA do after the game? they released their 2-minute report. Now, for those of you that aren't familiar, the 2-minute report is when the NBA comes out and explains situations that happen in the final 2 minutes of a game. And they say basically like, hey, we fucked up here, we fucked up here, we fucked up there. What do? They come out and say, hey, our bad. We missed 2 clear lane violations in that final minute for you guys. Yeah, it cost you the game, but we're sorry. So what does that do for the Cavs? Fucking nothing. They're still down 0-2. The refs fucked up. Guys who are paid to do this for a living come out and go, means nothing. Then we go to game 3. Cavs get a couple guys back. They're healthy-ish. They whip ass. They beat up on the Pacers 2-1. Okay. Hell yeah. Let's go. Next game, Sunday night. It was Mother's Day. Mother's Day rolls around. All right, here we go. Get out there. Tie this fucking series up. Get home court advantage back. Brand new series. Let's go. What do the Cavs do? The Cavs proceed to go down by 41 points at halftime. 41. Safe to say they did not make a comeback in that game. In fact, I believe all of the players were healthy for Game 5 because they had so much free time to rest on Game 4 because they all got to sit for pretty much the entire second half. Then Game 5 rolls around, Tuesday night in Cleveland. Same thing. Cavs get up to a pretty decent lead. Cavs find a way to blow said lead. Next thing you know, Cavs are down by 10 with a couple minutes to go in the game or whatever, and they never make a comeback. Season's over. Cavs lose. Gentlemen sweep 4-1 to the Indiana Pacers, who, pun intended in their name, outpaced them. Here's where I have my complaints about this Cavaliers team. This Cavaliers team were babied all season. Yes, I enjoyed every minute of the regular season. It was fun. But your regular season doesn't matter if you choke in the playoffs like they did. They had the most wins in franchise history in a regular season or whatever. They had, historically speaking, I think the second most efficient or second best offense in NBA history. But again, to no avail. It means fucking nothing in the playoffs when you basically got embarrassed 4-1. They were babied. Kenny Atkinson benched. He had this weird rotation where he would go, okay, Mitchell, with 6 minutes into the first quarter, you're always going to the bench. I always want to rotate this guy. You're going to get so many minutes. There are so many minutes on the bench to the point where Donovan Mitchell was playing like barely 30-something minutes a game, which your star player typically plays the most minutes. And I get it. In a blowout, totally get it. You don't need to play that much. But, and I'm not trying to compare the two because they're totally different teams, totally different schemes and all this and that. Look at the New York Knicks. The New York Knicks in Game 1 against the Boston Celtics of their series that they won, the Celtics had a 20-point lead at one point. Celtics were up 20 points. They blew that lead. The game goes to overtime. And if you look at the stat line of Game 1 of that series, I implore you to go do that. Look at the amount of minutes their starters played. Game 1. Over 40 minutes apiece for almost, I think, all 5 starters. Jalen Brunson, Josh Hart, who's the dude they traded for? I can't think of his fucking name off the top of my head. Whatever. Karl Anthony Towns, there's the shooter that they traded for. I can't think of his Miles Bridges. And then I forgot who the other player, that they have a 5th guy, whoever the fuck starts for him. So it's Brunson, Josh Hart, Karl Anthony Towns, Bridges, and I don't remember who their 5 is, but whatever. Go look at their numbers. They all played like 40-plus minutes. The Cavs had guys who played like 30-something minutes, and they were gassed. Literally gasping for air. Donovan Mitchell looked like he went to war. Kudos to Donovan Mitchell. He was the best player in the series by far, regardless of the team. He was the best player on that court. But he can only do so much because he had no support for a lot of people who let us down. And I'm looking at you, Ty Jerome. Ty Jerome went from being a guy who we all said, how the fuck are you going to keep this guy? There's no way he's going to get such a huge contract in the offseason. And then he goes to the playoffs and he shot like 10% in the series. Indiana shut him the fuck down. He was turning it over left and right. And then again, this is where I was able to take my Cavalier blinders off, and I listened to Brian Windhurst talk about it. And Brian Windhurst said, if you go back and look at the regular season, Ty Jerome played like Ty Jerome in this series. He just wasn't hitting shots. the lazy offense, the horrible defense. That's who he is as a player, but you don't think about it when he's out there scoring 25 points because you're like, whatever, you don't even notice it. When he's doing it in the playoffs and he's not contributing on offense, you go, holy shit, when it's under a microscope. So Ty Jerome exposed himself in this series. I love the guy. I loved watching him this season, but if he for some reason cannot be a Cavalier next year, whatever. I'm okay with Craig Porter Jr. getting those minutes, to be honest, or Jalen Tyson. Give me a guy who can be a little more consistent and play with a little more effort. Because Ty Jerome is just a scorer. I learned that the hard way in this playoff series because, again, I watched the season with blinders on. Ty Jerome got picked on defensively in this series. During the regular season, I didn't notice it because the Cavs would have big leads, or Ty Jerome's, again, scoring 25 points in a night. So you don't even notice that they're picking on him defensively. In this series, when he's going 1 of 12 from the field with 2 points, you notice it. You notice that he's getting picked on defensively because his plus minus is in the fucking toilet because he's not doing anything. He's turning the ball over on offense. He's missing shots, which is just like a turnover. If you think about how many times he lost the ball from getting, stolen or, a shitty pass, and then he missed 11 shots in one game, that's basically, those are turnovers. When you're shooting the ball and missing it, the other team gets possession. That's no different than a turnover. You're not scoring points. You're not doing anything effective. And then on the other side, they're attacking you off defensively. So you're giving up extra points. Just a horrible, horrible series for Ty Jerome, who, again, thank you for what you did in the regular season, but if the Cavs do not re-sign you for dirt cheap, then good riddance. I don't want this dude on my team for a ton of money because the Cavaliers are kind of fucked. We'll get to that. There's been a lot of talk about Jared Allen because of the final 2 games of the series. He had 6 rebounds total, I believe, in the final 2 games. And if you look at that, game 5, dude, we lost by fucking 40 points, or we were down by 40 points at one point. Do you really think Jared Allen getting rebounds was going to make a fucking difference? That's what you guys are focusing on. I get it. Jared Allen is a soft player. I get it. But he's still very good and very effective. The lack of rebounding, whatever. Does it really make a big difference? You really think a couple Jared Allen rebounds in the last 2 games of the series made a difference in that series? Looking at him to get a rebound in game 2 when we blew that fucking game because of 2 offensive rebounds that they had, that's a time to complain about rebounding. Not when you lose by 40 or you're down by 40. And then when the other game where you're down by fucking 10 plus points with the final minute to go. A couple rebounds don't really make that big of a difference. When your offense isn't scoring, what the fuck's the difference of getting a rebound? The Cavs are soft, though. I will fully admit that. They are, and I'm not just, I took some time to think about this. I don't want everybody to think that this is some irrational thought. I tweeted this in the 3rd quarter of the game. The Cavs still had a lead at this point when I made a post on Facebook about how this is the final game of the season because the Cavs are just a soft team. I saw the writing on the wall. I knew it. And then they blew the lead and they lost the game, just as I projected. But what I'm getting at is this is just who they are. This is year 3 of this unit going into the playoffs, being manhandled physically. 3 years ago, almost to the fucking month, it was end of April 2023, they faced the Knicks. The Knicks whipped our ass because the Knicks were physical and the Knicks were just, exceeding their dominance, or exerting their dominance. I'm sorry. And then you go to last year. Last year, round 1, we took on the Magic. The Orlando Magic, everybody kind of went in and said this is going to be a fucking cakewalk. They're the Magic. They suck. They took us to 7 games because they were physical. The Magic this year, they were one of the better defensive teams in the NBA. I almost said football teams. They were one of the better defensive teams in the NBA. Offensively, they weren't very good, and that was kind of their downfall for their season. But defensively, the Magic are tough. The Magic are a very physical, tough team, and that's why they took the Cavs to 7 games last year. Then the Cavs go to the Boston Celtics in round 2. Couple more injuries, guys missing a bunch of games. Cavs lose that series. I think they also got a gentleman's sweep 4-1, if I remember correctly. This year, more injuries. I understand you can't predict an injury. I'm not one of those guys that's going to call, excuse me, I'm not one of those guys that's going to call a dude like Darius Garland soft. Darius Garland clearly had a bad toe, and in the NBA, if you've ever played sports in your entire life, you know how hard it is to run and stop on a dime with a fucked up toe. If you have a broken toe, just go walk around. Go walk. Go in the park and have a walk. You're gonna be in pain. Now try running against some of the most The best athletes in the fucking world go do that with a broken toe. Good luck. Easier said than done. So I give kudos to Darius Garland for at least attempting to play. However, Darius Garland cannot stay healthy. He is consistently getting banged up when we need him. You can't control injury, so I'm not knocking the dude for it, but unfortunately that's just who he is as a player. And then it comes down to just the softness overall of the entire team. Again, DeAndre Hunter getting manhandled, finally pushes the Pacers, should have gotten suspended himself or ejected himself. He didn't. He got lucky. He got Mathurin ejected. We still lost the game, so it didn't make a fucking difference, but he was kind of soft. Darius Garland was tough. Darius Garland, when he get knocked down, he would jump right up, whatever. Jared Allen, pussy. Didn't push anybody around, didn't do anything. Evan Mobley, same thing. They're just not physical. And I'm not here to call them out on that. Some guys just aren't that's not who they are. They're not a tough team. They're not a physical team. They were poorly conditioned for the series, and they went ice cold from the field shooting at the worst possible fucking time. The worst possible time. You're in the playoffs. You cannot go cold like that. They went ice cold. It happens. I'm not defending them. But again, to me, this is just who this team is. This is, again, 3 straight years, rinse and repeat. They go to the playoffs. They get out physical from another team, if that's a word, and they get eliminated. This is, again, 3 years in a row. So I've accepted the fact that this is just who they are. They are a regular season team. They are not built for the playoffs. The playoffs are a fucking different animal. I've always said it. There's a reason a couple years ago everyone was calling him Playoff Jimmy because the Miami Heat had no business being as good as they were. But Jimmy Butler turned into a different player, and he became Playoff Jimmy, and he dominated, and he beat the Boston Celtics because he got in their head. He beat the I forgot who else they played in that series, whatever. But they made it to the fucking finals. They lost to the Nuggets, but he was Playoff Jimmy, and he got them to the finals. The Cavs, I tweeted this, and I told some buddies, the Cleveland Cavaliers are the Cleveland Guardians with money. They are a fun regular season team. They're going to make their way to the playoffs. The fans are going to have a lot of hope. And then they're going to meet a team that's a little more built, that's built better for the bright lights. For the Guardians, it's usually the Yankees who eliminate them because they just have more money. They're a powerhouse. For the Cavaliers, that's just a physical team. Every year, 3 straight years. That's just who they are. I've accepted it. Now, this is where it sucks. The Cavaliers, because of the new CBA deal, are a second apron team, which limits the fuck out of what they can do. Do I think they should blow it up? No, I do not. I, however, know that you can't teach an old dog new tricks. And again, I've said it earlier, these guys are not going to roll in next season and just be the fucking Detroit bad boys of the 90s and 80s, whatever. They are just who they are. They are a fun shooting team that's soft. And if you get a little physical with them, that's good for you. You figure out the way to stop them. But if the Cavs go cold and you're physical, they have no shot of winning the game. If the Cavs can hit their shots and you're physical, they could still beat you. But if they're not hitting their shots, you live and die by the 3. This Cavaliers team was built to live or die by the 3, and that is exactly what happened to the Boston Celtics as well. The Boston Celtics, the Knicks weren't the better team. The Celtics were the better team, but what happened? The Celtics started missing a bunch of shots in the fourth quarter. The Knicks started making a comeback because they were making their shots. If the Knicks had a shitty shooting night, they would have been toast. But they had a good shooting night. Boston had a good shooting night until the second half, and Boston stopped hitting shots, and their offense was terrible. I watched those games. I don't know what the fuck their offense was, but it was literally just Jason Tatum dribbles the ball around, chucks up a horrible 3, bricks it, rebound Knicks. Knicks go down and score. Celtics ball. Celtics dribble around a little bit, kick it out. One dude shoots a deep contested 3, brick, rebound Knicks. That was their offense. There were times in that series where they were down by like 1 point or whatever, winning it. They were up, where you would want to drive, draw a foul, get some easy free throws, maybe get an easy layup. What do? They are resorting with deep threes. Resorting to deep threes, I should say. Didn't really make a lot of sense to me. But that's just the offense you run. And when you're not hitting your shots, again, you live and die by the 3. The Cavs were terrible from 3. Donovan Mitchell, yes, He was the best player in that series. What did he shoot from three in that whole series, though? 19%. That is fucking atrocious. Atrocious. Ty Jerome couldn't hit water if he jumped off the fucking Titanic in that series. Atrocious. Darius Garland, because of his bum foot, couldn't hit shots that he would normally hit in the regular season. Evan Mobley, again, this is the guy that he won Defensive Player of the Year. Congratulations to him. Now, everybody and their brother is talking about how he needs to step it up and he needs to be the best player on this team if the Cavs want to go any further, blah, 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 blah. Semi-true. That could help. But he needs to just be a little more aggressive. There were times where the big men were dominating against the Pacers. So what did the Cavs do? They started shooting a bunch of threes. Made no fucking sense to me. I remember tweeting about this exact specific situation. I looked at the box score and I went, Evan Mobley and Jared Allen are like, again, I'm exaggerating because I don't really remember. They were like 6 of 9 from the field or something like that, maybe even better. They were doing really, really well from the field. The Pacers didn't have an answer for them going inside. So what happens? Cavs call a timeout. They come out of that timeout, and Max Strus chucks up a horrible contested three that airballs out of bounds. I think this was game 2. So maybe it was even better than 6 of 9, but they were dominating. And I'm sitting there, and I literally I said, come out of this timeout. I tweeted it. I said, attack the paint. You're dominating in the paint. So what happens? Max Strus shoots one of the ugliest shots I've ever seen. Airballs it right out of bounds. A turnover goes right to the Pacers. They come down, score, and that helped build up their comeback. Had you ran an actual offensive play and maybe scored there, maybe you get an and one. Maybe, who knows? You know, I don't even know. I don't remember what the time was in the game, but I just remember it was a very crucial part. And that's kind of where I looked and I said, they're living and dying by the fucking three. Even when it's a horrible contested shot, they went for it. It makes no fucking sense, but they did it, and that's what cost them their season. So again, every year, death, taxes, Cavs being soft in the playoffs, Darius Garland injuries, those are a few things you can guarantee in life. But now I get back to really quickly, again, I don't know a ton about it. I'm very, very, very uneducated about the second apron deal in the CBA. Basically, what I've understood, the Cavs cannot trade multiple players at once. That is a key fact. They are not allowed to absorb more money. So hypothetically, for all the people saying the Cavs can trade Evan Mobley for Giannis Antetokounmpo, that's a big one being tossed around on social media from people that don't understand it. No, they can't, because Giannis Antetokounmpo makes $50 million a year. Evan Mobley makes less than 50. Cavs cannot take a bigger contract onto their books, from what I understand. The Cavs could make a trade for players and trade multiple players, but they would have to get 3, 4, 5 teams involved. It would have to be a multiple team trade, which is easier said than done. It's hard enough to get a 3-team trade in the NBA. You need to get probably a 4th team involved, even a 5th, according to Brian Windhurst. The other thing, they're in the apron, so they are being penalized for being over the cap. And there's a weird percentage of how much they do it. But basically, everyone was saying, if the Cavs decide to bring back Ty Jerome, and this is just a spitball number here, let's say hypothetically they decide to give him $10 million a year, you are taxed so much that $10 million a year turns into like $30 million a year. Not for Ty Jerome. He's still only getting 10, but his contract costs Dan Gilbert $30 million a year because you're paying a tax. Dan Gilbert's already come out and said he's willing to pay whatever fucking taxes the NBA wants him to pay, as long as it leads to a championship contending team, which it will if you bring these guys back. I mean, don't get me wrong, they're a good basketball team, but again, they're built for the regular season. But you are so limited to what you can do. I also don't even want to entertain the talks of people saying get Giannis here for Evan Mobley. I have no interest in trading the 23-year-old defensive player of the year for a 30-something-year-old aging star. Who would you rather have on your team realistically for the future, Evan Mobley or Giannis Antetokounmpo? And for those of you out there that are claiming Giannis would come here and bring that toughness and physicality that he did to Milwaukee, he hasn't won an MVP in a long time, hasn't really even been in the conversation. He won one championship with Milwaukee, and they haven't even been close to another championship since. He's been eliminated in the first round of the playoffs, I think 3 straight years or something like that. Giannis Antetokounmpo he's a great player. He can score. He's physical. He's bigger than everybody. That's why he can score and get rebounds. Great. Not a bad thing in the NBA, but also not some missing piece for a championship that everybody thinks he's going to be. Gun to my head, if I really had to guess, I think Pat Riley is one of the smartest basketball minds. I've heard a lot of rumors that Giannis wants to A, leave Milwaukee to go to a contender, and B, he wants to play somewhere where there's no state tax. Hello, Florida. Hello, Miami Heat. Giannis Antetokounmpo, if I had to guess, gun to my head, will be a Miami Heat next year. It's weird to say that because they're called the Miami Heat. So I said he would be a Miami Heat. That's a weird sentence. It sounds kind of fucked up, but it's accurate. He would be a member of the Miami Heat. There's that better. That does sound a little more grammatically correct. But that's the rumor. That's what I'm hearing. That's what I think would happen. Miami does suck, but Giannis would go down there. He'll get to play with, I don't even know what they'd have to trade for him. I mean, they'd have to give up a lot. I would assume Tyler Hero's untouchable. But again, Pat Riley knows what he's doing. I wouldn't be surprised if Giannis isn't the only move that they would make to get an extra superstar on that team. Do they go after Giannis and somebody else to match up with Tyler Hero? Very possible. They have a lot of young players. They have draft picks. They could do a lot. And again, it's Pat Riley, so I'm not discounting anything for them. But the people that are tweeting and saying that the Cavs need to trade for Giannis, it's just really, really fucking nearly impossible. You have to kind of look at, again, you have to try to match salaries, and the Cavs cannot add cash to a pick like they used to be able to do, or to a trade, I'm sorry. The Cavs are limited with what draft picks they can trade because they traded draft picks to get Donovan Mitchell that they're still in debt for. I think they traded a draft pick or two to get DeAndre Hunter, if I'm not mistaken. They're pretty limited with what they can trade. I'll just put it that way. And just because of the rules, they're limited with what they can do. So, for those of you thinking the Cavs are going to blow up the core four and make some huge splash in the offseason, it's really, really tough to do. One trade scenario that I saw that somebody posted that said this, if anything, this would be a realistic trade. I believe it was the Cavs trade Jared Allen to the Lakers for Rui Hachimura and Dalton Knecht. That's a trade that would be a realistic type of trade for the Cavs to take on. For those of you thinking you're just going to go Evan Mobley for Giannis Antetokounmpo, you're out of your fucking mind. If anything, if we traded one of these players, we're getting pennies on the dollar back. Because who would you rather have on your team? Jared Allen or Rui Hachimura and Dalton Knecht? Both of them are okay players for the Lakers. You know, the one's a rookie, Dalton Knecht. He's a good shooter, but you know he didn't get a whole lot of time last year. Do you really think that makes you a championship contender? I don't know. There's only one way to find out, but that would mean you have to basically put Evan Mobley to the 5 permanently. But the biggest thing that this team is missing is the wing player. They need a better wing. Max Strus is your starting wing. Not good enough. DeAndre Hunter, in my opinion, should not be coming off the bench. DeAndre Hunter should be your starting 3 next year. I think DeAndre Hunter is your best bet at a stretch wing because that's what's going to win you games in the NBA. Having that stretch wing that can score, that can play defense, it's not a liability like Max Strus is on defense. And even on offense, there are nights that, you know, and I'm not just saying this because I make bets, but there were plenty of nights where I bet on Max Strus to have like 1-3 in my parlay. I would throw it in there just as like a freebie. It's Max Strus. Of course he's going to hit a 3-pointer. You know how many fucking times that dude went 0-4 from the 3-point line this season? A lot. And he's your starting 3 guard. In the NBA, you have a starting 3 guard who's scoring less than 10 points in a game at times. That's unacceptable. You can't have that. Most starting 3s are putting up 20-plus points. They're usually your best player on your team if you want to be a championship contender. We didn't have that. DeAndre Hunter was great coming off the bench. He was really good in the playoffs. But next year should be the opposite. Give me Max Strus off the bench. Give me DeAndre Hunter in your starting position. I want DeAndre Hunter out there to help try to take on Jason Tatum, who won't be playing next year because of his torn Achilles. We'll get to that. But I don't know. I couldn't be more disappointed with this team. But again, I've slept on it. I've accepted it. This is just who they are. I'm not even that mad about it anymore because there's nothing you can do. They are so fucking strapped with their options that they have to run this team back. And you're more than likely going to have to see guys making more of an impact that didn't get to play a lot this year. Again, as I mentioned earlier, Craig Porter Jr. might have to take on that Ty Jerome role because I doubt the Cavs can bring back Ty Jerome. He will cost them a fortune in tax money. And the way he played in the playoffs, I don't want him back. If that's who he is. If the lights got so bright for Ty Jerome that the Pacers shut him the fuck, it wasn't one game. You're allowed to have one bad game. He played so poorly that in game 5, he was basically benched. He didn't come in until the fourth quarter of that game. He was benched. He was a runner-up for 6th man of the year all season. And then in one series, he found himself glued to the fucking bench because he was consistently so bad. You can have a bad night. You can't have 4 of them in a row. That's where I go, okay, this is a pattern. This dude's not cut out for this. Same thing with the rest of the Cavs. All of them after the game. Oh, we're going to use this as fuel for next year. Donovan Mitchell's acting all fucking tough, and he's like, oh, I know you guys are going to write a bunch of shit about us and how, we blew it, and we're just going to use that as motivation and blah, blah, blah. No, you're not, dude. I watched you get fucking bullied on the court, all of you guys. You guys got pushed around like redheaded stepchildren all fucking series by the Indiana Pacers, and you're going to come out and tough talk in the fucking media? We watched you play, dude. You guys are fucking Charmin soft, and you're going to come out and tough talk everybody? Sorry. I'm not buying it. I'm sick of seeing these fucking quotes of, oh, we want to come back. We're hungrier than ever next year, blah, blah, blah. The only thing that I have that's a little bit making me feel a little bit better, but again, it's all a moot point because of the CBA. Everyone's going, well, the Celtics took them 7 years to win their first championship with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Okay. But they weren't strapped like that. They traded for Kristaps Porzingis, which was a huge fucking get. They had Al Horford, a Hall of Famer that can hit shots. They had Drew Holiday, one of the best defensive guards in basketball. They have Derek White, who crushes it. They had Peyton Pritchard, who was 6th man of the year this year. They had a really good team that helped win that championship. And they have Jason Tatum, who's one of the best players in the league, for multiple facets. Donovan Mitchell, he can score. Great. Pretty much all he does. Defense, he's okay. He can get a couple rebounds. He can assist every once in a while. That's it. Jason Tatum is 6'8" or whatever. Jason Tatum can get you 10 rebounds a game. Jason Tatum's going to get you 5 assists. Jason Tatum's going to get you 30 points. Okay, great. Jaylen Brown can consistently give you 20 points a night, 4 or 5 rebounds, a handful of assists. You're not getting that from a second player on this Cavs team. You want it from Evan Mobley. That's the goal. But you're not getting it consistently from him. And then you're getting, I look at the other guys. Kristaps Porzingis is the unicorn, was his nickname. He can shoot, he can drive, he gets rebounds, he does everything. Jared Allen is a pretty classic big man. Jared Allen has to play down low. He can't shoot. Excuse me. Jared Allen can't shoot. He's not a three-point threat. Very, very different players. And then, again, you go to the guards. Derek White is their 5th option offensively, 4th option maybe, give or take, 3rd, not even 3rd. I'll say it's Tatum, Brown, Porzingis, and that's when you get into who's next. Probably, I would say, Derek White. Darius Garland is our number 2 scorer, and he's not even putting up the numbers that Derek White can put up consistently. Derek White also brings you not lockdown, but really, really great hustle defense. He gets blocks all the time for a guard. Darius Garland is a huge defensive liability. He gets picked on exclusively. So if he's not giving you 25 points a night and hitting, getting 8 assists and 20 points a night, you're not getting a whole lot of Garland, because if you, again, look at the plus minus of how much he gives up on defense, not great. So just by using the Boston Celtics as a little bit of a comparison for all the people that are like, well, the Cavs need to keep this team together. They've only been together for 3 years. It took the Celtics 7. That Celtics team is full of superstars. The Cavs are full of stars. That's just not the same. But again, Cavs are soft. The Cavs, that's just who they are. I'm over it. I've moved on. I have fully dedicated myself to rooting for the Western Conference in the remaining playoffs, and I'll talk about that later. But I've just accepted that that's who the Cavs are, and I'm going into next year. I'm vowing right now I will not be excited for the regular season one fucking iota. I don't care about a Coach of the Year award. I don't give a fuck about a Defensive Player of the Year award, because in hindsight, him getting the Defensive Player of the Year award fucked the Cavs so hard, because he got a crazy bonus for winning Defensive Player of the Year, which then puts us even further into this second apron cap hell. So Evan Mobley getting the Defensive Player of the Year was actually like the worst thing that happened to the Cavaliers this season when you look at it now and how it's fucking us in the cap situation. But can't go back. It is what it is. He won it. Congratulations. But basically the NBA is trying to make it to where you can't have super teams, so you get punished for drafting well. If you look at the Celtics drafted Jaylen Brown. They drafted Jason Tatum. They made their team what it is because of those. Those are their top two players, bar none. Now the Celtics are in a situation, too, from what I've heard from Brian Windhorst, of they'll likely have to dump a bunch of players in the offseason because of their CBA cap situation, of the apron that they're under. They're being punished because they drafted two really fucking good players who have to make a lot of money, because that's just the way sports work. That's it. You're being punished. Same thing with the Cavaliers. Cavaliers drafted Darius Garland. They drafted Evan Mobley. Yes, they traded for Donovan Mitchell, but they traded away multiple first-round picks. They gave up a lot for him. It wasn't like they got him for free. They traded for Jared Allen. They've traded for all these players, and because they made all these moves, they're now being punished for it, because the NBA does not want you to be able to keep your star players for a long period of time. Their goal with this new CBA is you have to spread the talent out way more than you ever have in the past, which is a good theory. I get it. They don't want super teams. If you look at it, I think, what was it I heard? If you go back for the last 7 years, there's been a different champion every year. The NBA wants that. They want diversity, and they don't want, dynasties. They don't want to see the Cavs and the Warriors in the finals every year, back to back to back to back. They want to see the Nuggets and the Heat, the Celtics Mavericks, like last year. They want to see the Oklahoma City Thunder versus the fucking Pacers or whatever. They want to see that diversity. I get it, but it also sucks because you're punishing teams. Like, the bonus that Evan Mobley's getting for winning Defensive Player of the Year shouldn't be penalized. It should not count against your cap, in my opinion. If you have a really good player who has a great season and plays so fucking well that he wins an award and it's great for him, why is the team punished for that? Why do you get punished? That makes no sense to me. His bonus for winning Defensive Player of the Year should not go against your cap. That's just my opinion on that. And I will die on that hill. Speaking of dying on hills, the Guardians are dying in the AL Central. They are quickly falling. Yes, they did win 1 out of 2 today because they had to play a doubleheader. But they got swept by the Tito Francona Cincinnati Reds. Meanwhile, the Detroit Tigers are the best team in baseball. Not good when you're trying to keep afloat in your division. Then, the Kansas City Royals, playing pretty good baseball. Minnesota Twins went on a run of like 11 straight wins or something like that ended over the weekend. But they had a long winning streak going. The Guardians are going to be looking up for quite some time in the Central, and they need to figure some shit out. I don't remember what I said on the show, because I kind of say everything on the show in jest. I don't really mean it all. I say a lot of things to get people riled up and to, be a super fan. So I think I predicted the Guardians to be pretty good this year, but I really don't remember on the show. But in my group text, and I have receipts if anybody wants to see them, I told my buddies before the season started, we were giving our actual predictions for our favorite teams, and I said, the Guardians suck. I have them finishing 4th in the Central. I might have said that on the show too. I really don't remember. But I wasn't saying it to be funny or to get a rise out of people. I truly meant it. I was looking at, oh shit, Jim Irsay died. R.I.P., Colts owner. Jim Irsay dead at 65. Interesting. Yeah, sorry about that. Breaking news. I opened up the ESPN app, and that was the first thing I saw. But yeah, the Guardians. I predicted it. They cut the roster or the payroll. They traded Andres Jimenez, which, don't get me wrong, Andres Jimenez was making way too much money for the offense that he was providing. I get it. Defensively, stud. Probably won't have. He's one of the best defensive players in all of baseball. They traded him. Okay, I get it. Didn't get a great return. Then they trade Josh Naylor for Sly Stallone, basically, the pitcher from the Diamondbacks. Josh Naylor last year was your second best offensive player. And you're trying to substitute him with Carlos Santana, who, yes, Carlos Santana did hit 2 home runs today. Kudos to Santana. He's 40 years old. He's been struggling. And now you're in a real pickle soon because you have David Fry, who's currently rehabbing in AAA, or AA, whatever. I forget which one he's in. I think he's in AAA right now. Currently rehabbing. Dropped my pen. Hang on. David Fry is rehabbing a shoulder injury or an elbow injury, whatever the fuck it is. He cannot play in the field this whole year. I think he had Tommy John surgery, if I'm not mistaken. So he can't throw a baseball. He cannot play in the field. Maybe he can play first base. But even then, you'll still have to throw the ball every once in a while, so I really don't think he'll be able to play. I think he's going to have to be a DH. That's it. Your current DH is Kyle Manzardo, who is arguably your best offensive player. He leads the team in home runs. He leads the team in RBI. Carlos Santana, again, as I mentioned, is a 39-year-old who's struggling, who's a fan favorite, who everybody loves. How are you going to fit all 3 of these guys on your team or in your starting lineup? Something's got to give. David Fry was a hero last year in the playoffs. He was an all-star last year. David Fry is going to get some at-bats. But again, he cannot play in the field. So he can only DH. You're not going to bench Kyle Manzardo. What are you going to do with Carlos Santana? Kyle Manzardo, spoiler alert, is a first baseman, by the way. I forgot to mention that. So you have 2 guys to play first base and 1 guy that can only DH, and one of your first basemen is exclusively your DH for the most part. So we are in a tough situation. I would hate to be Stephen Vogt right now. I don't know what they're going to do. I think they're going to end up having to inevitably bench Carlos Santana, which is going to irritate some fans, but I don't know what else they can do. Shane Bieber is rehabbing as well. That's not something I'm holding my breath for. I know a lot of fans, for some reason, think that by getting Shane Bieber and David Fry back, you're going to all of a sudden turn your season around. Bad news, coming back from a Tommy John injury, I expect Shane Bieber to not be the same guy. He's not going to be your dominant ace that he used to be. Also, your bullpen, kind of sketchy this year. Your bullpen went from being dominant, the best in baseball by far, to a liability. I watched the game today. They had a doubleheader. Game 1. Top of the 9th inning, 2 outs. Bo Naylor hits a fucking double that was this close to being a home run. Scores 2, ties the game up 5-5. We go to the bottom of the 9th. Hell yeah, we bring in Cade Smith. Cade Smith, those of you who remember last year, was lights fucking out. Especially in the playoffs. You bring this dude in, boom, 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 3 straight strikeouts, throwing gas, shutting everybody down. What did he do today? And what's he done lately? Blows the game. Guardians lose game 1, 6-5, because Cade Smith comes in the bottom of the 9th and blows it. Liability from the bullpen, unfortunately. It's tough to maintain. I totally know that. I went into this season knowing that the bullpen was not going to be that dominant again. You don't get that 2 years in a row. Bullpen pitchers are figured out quickly for whatever reason. I don't know why. Most of them go from being dominant for 1 year to average. You never hear from them again. Really, the only one in recent years is Mariano Rivera, who is consistently great. Everybody else has great years. Andrew Miller had a couple good years when he was with the Guardians. He was dominant. Then he fell off the face of the earth. You've got Josh Hader, the closer that was with the Brewers, fucking dominant for a couple years. Then he fell off the face of the earth. You never hear from him. It just happens. That's how bullpens work, and I get that. I expected it. It came a little fast for the Guardians, who last year had the best closer in baseball. They had the best setup man in baseball. Emmanuel Clase was struggling. Everybody and their brother said, you got to make Cade Smith your closer. Cade Smith comes in closing situations sometimes and blows it. And even today, not even a closing situation. It was tied 5-5, blows the game. These are things that weren't happening last year. They're now happening. So your luck has probably run out. It's sad, but again, it's what I predicted. I told everybody going into the season I expect the Guardians to finish in fourth place, and they're going right on track with that. I hear my daughter yelling. It's 8:09. She needs to go to bed. She's been struggling to go to sleep lately, and it's fucking annoying, but I get it. But speaking of crying, not only is she doing that, most Cleveland media are doing that regarding the Cleveland Browns right now. The Cleveland Browns had minicamp. Shedeur Sanders is there. Dylan Gabriel's there. Of course, Kenny Pickett, Joe Flacco, etc. The whole 9 yards. Every day, it is May 21st. Every fucking day on the radio, especially 850, which I listen to a lot. I don't know why. I know Kyle gives me shit for it, but I'm a sucker for Tony Rizzo. I've been listening to The Really Big Show for a decade plus. Nearly, no bullshit, almost 20 years I've been listening to The Really Big Show. So it's just a show that I used to love it. I used to love going back and forth and having fun. I feel like Riz took it seriously. Now I definitely get the vibe that Riz is in retirement mode. He doesn't really know what he's talking about half the time. He's not putting in the work that he used to. And I get it. I don't expect you to be on your A game for forever. But it is tough to listen to because you have Riz every fucking day just wanting to talk about the quarterback situation. It is mini camp. Who knows what's going to happen with this team? Who knows what's going to happen in their future? All he talks about is who's going to be the starter, who's going to do this, who's going to do that. It is mini camp. They're also hyping up Shedeur Sanders as if he needs to be the starter day one. How many fifth-round draft picks in history are the day one starter for an NFL season? If that's the case, something really, really bad has happened in the offseason. I expect Shedeur Sanders to pretty much be your fourth-string quarterback for most of training camp, mini camp, whatever, because that's just the pecking order. Joe Flacco has a history here, so Joe Flacco will likely get the ones. Maybe he'll split with Kenny Pickett, because Kenny Pickett they used a fifth-round pick on getting here in Cleveland, and he was a former first-round pick. So I expect it to be Pickett and Flacco 1 and 2, and that's pretty much the rest. Or that's pretty much it. The other guys are just battling for the backup position. It's who's going to be holding the clipboard closest to their who they'll be who their successor. Will it be Gabriel as a third-string quarterback, or will it be Shedeur Sanders? That's pretty much what they're battling for. But when you listen to these radio shows every goddamn day, it is just who's starting. Now, Mary Kay Cabot came out with an article where she said she's heard rumors in the building that what was it? I forgot exactly. It was like Kenny Pickett's number one in the depth chart. It's like there's no fucking depth chart right now. It's mini camp, dude. They're not even trying right now. They're playing in fucking gym shorts. This isn't real. Who's trying to get a grip on what's happening in the future right now? Only idiots, in my opinion. I get it. It's enticing to talk about the Browns drafted Shedeur Sanders. That's huge. Everybody and their brother. The Browns are still the talk of the town when it comes to football. They shouldn't be. Mary Kay is definitely clueless. And that's one really funny thing that I noticed from ESPN 850. So ESPN 850 hired Tony Grossi after he got fired from the Plain Dealer. And Tony Grossi has clearly lost any and all inside information that he used to have, because he used to be a Browns reporter. He probably had some sources, whatever. He spent the entire offseason, for the most part, from, I'd say, probably the combine until the draft, telling everybody and their brother that would listen that the Browns are in love with Jalen Milroe. The Browns are going to take Jalen Milroe at 33. There's no doubt in his mind. He just knows it. That's just who they are. And then what happened? They didn't take him. They didn't take him at 33. They didn't take him at 36. They didn't take him in the third round. They didn't take him in the fourth round. Well, I'm sorry. I think he was a third-round pick from the Seahawks, but whatever. But yeah, they passed on him multiple times. They did not want Jalen Milroe, but you know what Tony Grossi thought they wanted? Jalen Milroe, because he has no good sources. Meanwhile, I forgot the name of the reporter. There was a reporter who was on the Really Big Show the day of the draft, And he threw out there a little nugget that they kind of disregarded and nobody actually paid attention to. And he said, I've heard the Browns the Browns like Dillon Gabriel. That's all he said. He didn't say when. He just said, I've heard the Browns really like Dillon Gabriel. And Tony Grossi then stuck to his guns and said, oh, they're not taking Dillon Gabriel. They love Jalen Milroe. They're coming away with Jalen Milroe at quarterback, blah, 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 blah. Sure as shit. No interest in Jalen Milroe. They take Dillon Gabriel. Tony Grossi had no fucking idea what he was talking about. Now, Tony Rizzo, on the other hand, spent the entire couple of months of draft talk specifically saying the Browns are taking Shedeur Sanders at 2 because they need a quarterback. So it's going to go Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, no doubt about it. Shedeur Sanders goes in the 5th round, shows how wrong everybody was about the quarterback prospects this year. I was part right. I mockingly told people, I even said it when we did our mock draft, I mocked Shedeur Sanders late in the 1st round to the Rams just to get him in the 1st round because I was like, I don't see this dude as a 1st round talent. Did I see him as a 5th? No. A 5th round pick was fucking drastic. But he's a Cleveland Brown nonetheless. I will support him through and through, but do I think Browns fans have some unrealistic expectations for a 5th round pick? I really do. I think they just go off the name Shedeur Sanders. They go off the offseason hype where everyone thought he'd be a top 5 pick, and they think he is a top 5 pick. Even though he's a top 5 round pick, they still treat him as if he was our number 1 pick, which is bananas to me. I don't understand why. I also think you're doing yourself a disservice if you... It depends on what route the Browns decide to go this year. I think they are going to try to win. They're going to start the season off trying to win. You always try to win. If Joe Flacco and Kenny Pickett are out there struggling, they are going to eventually go to the rookie quarterbacks. In what order? We'll find out. They have to play and, earn their stripes, if you will. But if the season goes in the toilet and you go out there with Shedeur Sanders, if he's not lighting it up, you have to or Dillon Gabriel also. Sorry, I meant to say both. If Dillon Gabriel or Shedeur Sanders are playing your quality games and they're not lighting it up, you have to understand they're looking for a quarterback next year. Their trade with the Jacksonville Jaguars was a trade for the future to get to move up in a loaded quarterback class if needed. I look at a team like the Tennessee Titans. Tennessee Titans drafted Will Levis a couple of years ago in the 2nd round. Early, in my opinion. I thought he was overdrafted. He played decent enough to where they said, we're going to give him another year. They gave him another year, and what did he do? He shit down his leg. He sucked. He turned it over. They benched him for Mason Rudolph. They then got the number 1 overall pick. They had to take Cam Ward. It worked out in the end. They got the number 1 pick. Assumingly, they got themselves a franchise quarterback. They think, they hope. Do I want the Browns to follow that, though? No. Do I want Shedeur Sanders or Dillon Gabriel to look just good enough to where you give them the 2026 season to prove yes or no, and you have to then use your 2 draft picks on any other position other than quarterback, and they suck, and then you're right back at fucking square one? I don't want that. That's my biggest issue with having these 2 young quarterbacks on your team is you now have 2 guys fans are going to be clamoring for, saying, let's see what we got with these kids. Let's see what we got. And if they look okay, then they're going to go, I think you're good. You're good with Shedeur Sanders for 2026 or Dillon Gabriel, whatever. And then when reality sets in and they get an actual full season as a starting quarterback and they suck and you go, all right, we need to draft a new quarterback, you wasted 2 years instead of 1. It's a tough situation to be in. Andrew Berry put himself really into a tough corner. I don't understand the process. I get it. Shedeur Sanders in the 5th round is a fucking bargain. But doubling up and taking Dillon Gabriel first was a weird move, but they love Dillon Gabriel. Again, I try to tell people this. I know they don't want to hear it. They're like, you wasted a 3rd round pick on basically a player coach, because my understanding is that they love Dillon Gabriel for his brain. So you drafted a guy as a player coach, which is fine. But yeah, it was a 3rd round pick. It's kind of a high pick, but at the same token, this is a very weak draft class. I would be hard pressed to go back and look at the 3rd round and see a player that they didn't take where I'm like, you fucked up. And again, hindsight is always 20/20. In 5 years, we might look back and go, holy shit, okay, Dillon Gabriel got drafted at pick number, 94 or whatever the fuck. And then you look back and you go, oh shit, so-and-so took this guy at pick 105. You could have had him instead of Dylan Gabriel. Look at how good he is. Okay, sure. But right now, there's not one player you can point at on a piece of paper and say, this dude was a fucking stud. You should have taken him. You fucked up, blah, blah, blah. It's impossible to do that. And I understand there's going to be guys in a few years who are going to say things like that of how, oh, you should have taken this guy, should have taken that guy. But at the time, nobody did. It's the same thing with like Tom Brady, Antonio Brown, whomever. You can go back and look at a draft and go, holy shit, this guy went so late. Oh, my favorite team took this guy. What a bunch of fucking idiots. Okay, let me see your paperwork where you said, hey, you need to take this guy. He's so fucking good. Because if they knew how good Tom Brady was going to be, spoiler alert, he would have gone number 1 overall. Antonio Brown, same thing. If anyone knew he was going to be that great of a wide receiver, he would have probably been a top 5 draft pick, not in whatever. I think he was a 4th round pick, 6th round pick, whatever the fuck. So again, hindsight is always 20/20. It's easy to act like you're the smartest guy in the room 5 years after the fact when the cement is dry, as they say. So yeah, we have what's it? May. We have 3 fucking months of listening to the Browns fans and Browns radio talk about what quarterback's going to be starting because training camp starts in about 2 months, and then the preseason games start in about 3 months. So that's exciting. The schedule came out for the Cleveland Browns. I didn't even think to talk about it. The schedule is hard as fuck. For a 4th place team, for the 2nd worst team in football, the Browns have one of the hardest schedules in all of the NFL. It makes no sense to me. I thought the NFL was based around the other way, where if you're a 4th place team, you get an easy schedule. Somehow the Browns didn't get that. I don't understand how the NFL works because that's always been a thing of if you're a 4th place team, you get a 4th place schedule, and the Browns schedule is fucking nightmarish on paper. Don't get me wrong. Not everything's, things can change, but on paper, hard as fuck. I guess it's a good thing. The Browns look at their opponents, their schedule, and they said, hey, you know what? We're going to have a really hard year anyway. Let's just tank and get the quarterback. I don't know. Maybe that's their goal. They're looking way into the future. But the schedule came out. The schedule sucks. 0 primetime games. Pretty much every game's at 1 o'clock except for their one game in Vegas, which is a 4 p.m. start only because it's on the West Coast. 0 primetime games for even the preseason, which a lot of people found to be curious because you have Shedeur Sanders, who in a preseason game will be playing for probably an entire half. You'll likely go with Kenny. I doubt Joe Flacco plays much in a preseason game. Joe Flacco might play a series or 2. Then Kenny Pickett will play a quarter maybe, and then you're going to give it to Gabriel and Sanders. So a lot of playing time for Shedeur Sanders in the preseason, and the NFL still gave them 0 primetime preseason games even. So interesting. I don't know. Their season's pretty basic. Again, ton of 1 o'clock games and no primetime games. And I'm okay with it. Whatever. Get it over with. It's like fucking going to get a colonoscopy every week at 1 o'clock. Just give me the game or bend me over, give it to me, and we'll get on with the week. That's how I'm looking at it. So we have, again, Shedeur Sanders talk for the next 8 weeks, 8 weeks. We have a 5th round pick that is going to be stealing the headlines for some reason because Browns fans can't accept the fact that he is a 5th round pick. Yeah, there's a schedule. Fucking tough, man. It's brutal. You start off with the Bengals at home. Then you face the Ravens, the Packers, the Lions, Vikings in jolly old England. Then you fly right back with jet lag to face the Pittsburgh Steelers. Then you get the Miami Dolphins before the weather gets too cold. Then you face the Patriots, who maybe you get a win there. So maybe you go into the bye week 1-7, give or take. So that's going to be a rough start there. Then you take on the Jets. Maybe that's a win. Depends on how they're doing. Then you take on the Ravens, another tough one. Then you take on the Raiders, who knows what to make of that team as of right now, but I don't know. You have the Niners, who just gave Brock Purdy a massive contract, which good for them, I suppose. They decided to put all their eggs in a quarterback basket, but I can't knock them for it. You have a guy who took you to a Super Bowl. He's played consistently well, but you essentially had to blow your team up for him to get that contract, and they're in a weird rebuild phase while they're still trying to float above water. Interesting. Then you go to you take on the Tennessee Titans, and number 1 pick Cam Ward, assuming he's still upright and healthy. Then you take on the Chicago Bears. Curious to see what to make of them this year with Caleb Williams and that revamped offensive line. Then you get the Buffalo Bills, who at this point, maybe the Browns get a couple of wins strung together because the Buffalo Bills could be already locked up for a playoff spot at this week, which would be nice. Pittsburgh Steelers, I expect them to be bad. I don't know what to make of them. They have not signed Aaron Rodgers yet officially. I don't know if it's going to happen. I always assumed that was the case. But if they're comfortable going into the regular season with Mason Rudolph as their starting quarterback, kudos. I don't get it. Then you have the Cincinnati Bengals in Week 18, who, again, at this point, maybe they have a playoff spot locked up. So there's a couple quick wins to end your season. But, I mean, at this point, if you're that bad, if you're going into Week 15, 16, and you only have 2 or 3 wins, lose out. Get the draft pick. Lose. Please lose. But we'll see. We will see what happens. With that being said, there were a couple topics I wanted to talk about. I wanted to get George's take and have him join us. The Kenny Pickens trade. Kenny Pickens is traded to the Dallas Cowboys. If there's one thing you can guarantee almost, well, I said it earlier, death taxes, Cavs being soft in the playoffs, Darius Garland being injured, and Pittsburgh wide receivers not being good when Pittsburgh gets rid of them. That is almost a guarantee in life. George Pickens, same thing. George Pickens was a decent wide receiver coming out of college, a lot of baggage. He clearly is a head case, so he slipped a little bit, became a second-round pick, if I'm not mistaken, by the Steelers. And he is ready for a new contract. He has had his fair share of emotional outbursts and blow-ups and dirty plays, if you will, for the Steelers. And they are already sick of him. They're not giving him a second contract. They traded for DK Metcalf, which was a bold move by them. And they got Pickens the fuck out of there to Dallas. It helps Dallas for sure. It hopefully clears things up, makes life a little easier for CeeDee Lamb. But overall, an interesting move. Nonetheless, Dallas, I think, has some other bigger issues in wide receiver. Yes, wide receiver is a hole for them, but acquiring a guy who deems himself as a number one wide receiver, really thinks highly of himself, has really, again, some attitude issues, and you're now saying, oh, by the way, take a back seat because CeeDee Lamb is clearly better than you. And then you're playing in Dallas, which comes with a ton of pressure. Dallas sucked last year, albeit injuries, but Dallas, every year they get like 8 primetime games, national televised games, whatever. They have a ton. So George Pickens will be under a spotlight again. And you play with Dak Prescott, which doesn't seem to be too easy.
No, because he's got his favorites.
Yeah, he likes to throw to specific guys. He has trouble staying healthy. And on top of that, he is so inconsistent. Dak Prescott at times looks like an MVP, the best player in football. Then he'll go out there and throw 4 interceptions, and you go, what the fuck is wrong with this guy? Happens a lot. So that's going to be the funny thing is when George Pickens is he's already a head case. He demands the ball. You're now playing second fiddle to CeeDee Lamb, and then you're also the cherry on top is you're getting the ball thrown to you from Dak Prescott, who on one week you guys could fucking be great. The next week you could have 0 catches. I get it. George Pickens did come from Pittsburgh, who in his tenure in Pittsburgh, they have not had a good regime of quarterbacks either. He had Kenny Pickett. He had Mason Rudolph. He had Russell Wilson. They did not have good quarterbacks throwing him the ball there either. But Dak Prescott is an upgrade.
It's serviceable. You still have to catch a football.
Exactly. And he made some great catches. Don't get me wrong. He had a couple good highlight reel catches. But when the ball's not going his way, when he is not padding the stat sheet, he definitely has a little bit of an attitude problem. So,
did
trade here.
Brown, Deontay Johnson. There's a small laundry list here.
The list is endless. Basically, when Pittsburgh says we don't want this wide receiver anymore, if anything, that should be a red flag to go, neither do I, because there's clearly something wrong with this guy.
And Tomlin should be talking to the GM going, look, enough with drafting the damn wide receivers because everyone we draft is a mental head case since Antonio Brown. So they traded for DK Metcalf. It's like, hey, at least we know this guy. He's not a head case like these guys.
He is a little bit. It's another thing. DK Metcalf is known for getting into altercations, and he likes to pout a little bit if the ball's not going his way. So that was funny to me when I looked at that and I said, okay, you're going to have DK Metcalf, George Pickens, and potentially Aaron Rodgers in the same offensive huddle. Good luck, Pittsburgh. Right now, it's only DK Metcalf for the time being. We'll see if they get 2 out of 3, but they got George Pickens the fuck out of there, which makes sense.
And Cleveland got Deontay Johnson. I mean, hello.
Wait, what?
Cleveland has Deontay Johnson.
Yeah, not a guaranteed contract. They're rolling the dice to see if he's got anything left in the tank. Talent wise, it's there. His issue is just, for whatever reason, these ex Pittsburgh Steelers, they just don't. The only one I can think of off the top of my head that actually went on to have a good career when they left Pittsburgh, and this was kind of going in a little bit of a time machine. Emmanuel Sanders. Emmanuel Sanders went on to have better years in Denver than he did in Pittsburgh. In Denver, I think he went to a Pro Bowl or 2. He had some career years when he left Pittsburgh, but he was also a level-headed player who I believe they just had to get rid of because they couldn't afford him, really, because at the time, I believe that's when they had Antonio Brown, and Le'Veon Bell. They were all battling for money. They had Ben Roethlisberger under a big contract, so they had to make some tough choices, and unfortunately, Emmanuel Sanders was collateral damage, but he went on to have a very good career. I think he won a Super Bowl with Denver. But that's really the only guy I can think of off the top of my head that's left them. As you said, Deontay Johnson, nothing. Antonio Brown did nothing. Yes, he got a Super Bowl ring, but he had a shitty season. Just dating back, again, the running joke is if Pittsburgh doesn't want a wide receiver, run the other direction. And who better than crazy Jerry Jones to go, we'll take him. It couldn't have happened to a better team. It couldn't have been funnier for me to see Dallas Cowboys end up with him. But that'll be definitely something to keep an eye on and something interesting to see how the future holds for these two teams. Because, again, Pittsburgh is going in right now with an offense of Jalen Waddle, Will Howard versus Mason Rudolph at quarterback, Pat Freiermuth at tight end, and DK Metcalf as your starting wide receiver, and pretty much the field after that. They don't have much else.
Is the running back, right?
Yeah. Jalen Warren is their starting running back now that Najee Harris is in San Diego. And, again, they don't have a whole lot. Even if they bring in Aaron Rodgers, I don't really think that's going to do much for their offense because they don't have a whole lot of talent. Aaron Rodgers had enough trouble in New York where they had a lot of talent. Breece Hall, good running back.
Yeah.
Garrett Wilson, great wide receiver. Their offensive line had a lot of young guys on it. It wasn't great, but it was better than Pittsburgh's. Pittsburgh's offensive line is terrible. They have a bad offensive line. They have hardly any weapons. I mean, it's just an interesting combination. If they get Aaron Rodgers, I'm still speculating. I was under the impression that pretty much right after the draft, they were going to announce that they were signing Aaron Rodgers. That's why they didn't take a quarterback early. That's why they drafted Will Howard because, he's a third stringer to sit behind everybody. But right now it's looking like it could be Mason Rudolph and Will Howard as your 1 and 2 quarterbacks, unless they go after Rodgers, who is still unemployed. I really don't know what's going on in that situation, but definitely something to keep an eye on.
He's hiding in his hole.
He's doing the longest darkness retreat in NFL or in human history. Next thing I wanted to talk about, which was not on the list because it just happened today, but I wanted to talk to George a little bit about the tush push. So the tush push, when I woke up today and I went on Twitter, or not woke up, but when I was at work and I checked Twitter for the first time, I thought the tush push ban passed. Everybody on Twitter that I saw was bitching about it, saying, there's no safety reasons to ban the tush push. This is ridiculous, blah, blah, blah. The NFL needs to come out and explain themselves, blah, blah, blah. So I said, okay, shit. They banned the tush push. That's crazy. And then about an hour later, I go back on Twitter, and all of a sudden I see a post that says, and officially the tush push passes. It's fine. It's not going anywhere. I'm like, wait, what? Why is everybody bitching about it earlier then? So apparently it went up for debate. It was voted on. It needed to get 24 votes against, 8 votes for it to stay. That would have been the minimum for it to get changed. It got 22 and 10. So 22 teams voted for it to be banned. It needed 24. So it is alive and well.
Just before verbiage was taken out to figure it out, establishing it and going, oh, well, it should pass if this is out of it. Well, no.
I think personally, and this is just my opinion, I think it should be banned, but Not just that play specifically. I mean, take the tush push aside, call whatever you want. I think they need to go back to the old way of football where you're not allowed to push a guy forward.
Correct. I agree.
It has nothing to do with that play. If you want to run a quarterback sneak like that, where you're just getting fucking great leverage as an offensive line for the Eagles, kudos, do it. Pushing the guy should be outlawed. That should not be allowed in sports because there's so many times where I've seen a running back or, whatever, a player on offense with the football running forward. They get stood up, but then they keep chugging their legs along and the ref blows a whistle. At that point, where do you draw the line of why is this running back being blown dead here when he's still churning his feet and not down, and then a guy can come and just start pushing him if he's quick enough and you go, oh, he's fine. The fine line of when the play has been ruled dead and their momentum has been stopped is such a fine line. I think it would just be so much easier to say no pushing allowed at all.
Yeah,
that's easy for the refs to make that judgment call.
Or pulling.
Yeah, I think pulling is banned. You're allowed to push. You're not allowed to pull. Pulling has always been banned.
Yeah, because the Tiki Barber, the one play, the offensive lineman turned around and he was coming through the side and he kind of grabbed him and pulled him and, tossed him to get him forward. And I was always like, well, that's cheating.
Yeah, I think you should get the help with ball. Like it's an individual game of football. One guy has the football. If he's in a pile up, let him churn his legs. If not, go down. Your play's done. You shouldn't be allowed to push guys. And I hate it. I hate the fucking rugby. If you want to do that, go play rugby. That's a totally different sport. Rugby rules should not be allowed in football because again, the refs make judgment calls when forward progress has been stopped. And there's 100 plays a year where you're watching your favorite team and the refs blow a play dead. The guy then spins away and gets free. And he looks at the ref going, what the fuck? Why did you blow the whistle? But then if he did that and his teammate came and pushed him, you're allowed to do that. It's just let the player do his own thing. It's a judgment call if you want to stop momentum, but don't let players push. That's why I believe that not just the tush push, just pushing of a player in general should be banned. I thought it should have passed. I was actually pretty happy when I saw that. I don't believe that what they need to do is basically stop with the bullshit and stop saying that it's a safety concern and that's why they want to get rid of it because there's no evidence to support that. There have been no significant injuries to any player because of a tush push. It just should be banned because it's a rugby game at that point. And to me, if you have other players that have to come up and push you forward, that should say right there, your momentum has been stopped. That's why they have to push you forward. Because if you didn't have that extra weight of people pushing you, like in my opinion, and I know this is going to sound a little crazy, but this is my analogy that I'm going to go with here, and take it for what it's worth. If you agree with it, great. If not, I get it. But I look at it kind of as, if you're going to allow players to push each other down the field like that, then why do we have illegal man downfield for an offensive lineman on passing plays? Let them go down the field and block. Let them go down as far as they want and block. If you're going to allow guys to just push people wherever the fuck they want, why are they limited to only being where they're at? Why can't they go further down the field? You're taking a blocker away from your quarterback. I get it. It's a little apples to oranges kind of discussion, but I'm looking at it as like a way of, okay, if you're going to allow them to do this pushing thing, and it's totally fair, why can't he go down and block further down the field then? Why are there rules on that? Because you're limiting to where a guy can block. That's why they shouldn't be allowed to push people, because you're not blocking because you're pushing your player, but I look at it as like, if you can only go so far down the field, why are you allowed to then go further down the field and keep pushing and doing things like that? I don't know. I get it. It's not the greatest analogy, but I'm just looking at it as like, where do you draw the line of this? Of like, okay, if you're allowed to get this huge pile up, then why don't you just run a fucking offense like a rugby team and like, all right, we're going to put the running back in the middle. We're going to call hike. We're going to toss it to him. Every player make a straight line wall to block for this guy. Like, it's, I don't know, you're literally getting into rugby. It's going to look like fucking the movie 300, where you're going to make a Spartan circle around a player to push him down the field. Like, where do we draw the line? This should not be legal. If you have the football in your hand, it's a one-man versus the defense play. You block your guy, and if he gets tackled or he gets stood up, end of play, done deal, simple NFL. They should not let guys push and do shit like that. I hate it. But that's just my take. I think it should have passed to ban the tush push today. But again, not just the tush push, ban all pushing plays. Another thing that got voted on that actually passed was the Olympics. The Olympics are flag football has moved to the Olympics officially, and the NFL has allowed each team to allow one player to play in the Olympics, which is funny to me because everybody and their brother is freaking out, and they're like, oh my God, imagine if my star quarterback goes to the Olympics, or my number one wide receiver goes and gets hurt, blah, blah, blah. More than likely, and I'm purely speculating at this point, more than likely you're not going to see top tier players in the NFL going to the Olympics. It's going to be bottom of the roster guys who are still going to be good enough to dominate. You are basically going to see a glorified version of players from like the XFL, UFL, whatever. You're not going to see Lamar Jackson and Jamar Chase and guys like that playing on the Olympic flag football team, in my opinion. However, watching Tyreek Hill in the Olympics against a bunch of Frenchmen or whatever that don't play football would be funny as fuck. But I don't think we're going to get that, because I do think that the sixth wide receiver on any given NFL team could go out there and dominate against these guys regardless of who they're playing, in my personal opinion. The United States, is one of the only countries in the world that plays football the way that we do here with these rules and things like that. There are not many other countries that do it. So we already have an advantage. We have thousands upon thousands of collegiate athletes who in their own right are probably all going to be way more talented than any of the players that are going to be coming to light for other countries to play in the Olympics. So it'll be interesting. It's something to keep an eye on. But again, we don't have to worry about it for another 4 years or whatever. Or what is it, 2028?
3 years.
Okay, so 3 years. Yep. Summer Olympics 2028 in Los Angeles. Flag football will be a thing. Who will be there? I don't know. We'll find out.
Russell Wilson will be there, because Russell Wilson
he'll be unemployed at that point.
Retired.
Yeah.
Because we were thinking about it too. It's like, don't panic right now. There's 3 more years.
Exactly.
So who out of those guys, we're talking about Pickens. Hey, Pickens could be looking for a job at that point, but then get pulled to play on the Olympic team, and you could have Russell Wilson as a quarterback, and shoot, you can have, a couple guys literally just removed from the NFL or free agents who are looking for something. The one thing that we were concerned with was who would be coaching it, and somebody brought up Peyton Manning and Eli Manning last night to coach the flag football, and I said, well, they're already doing it for the Pro Bowl, so duh.
I feel like they're going to take it a little more serious. I think because it's the Olympics, there are going to be. I mean, you're at the end of the day, you're playing for Olympic gold for the honor of your country. So I think they'll take it seriously, like other sports, like Mike Krzyzewski was the college or the United States men's basketball coach for a long time. Then Steve Kerr took over. So I think you'll get an actual NFL coach. I think it'll be a guy who will likely be an out of work former NFL head coach, but you'll get somebody that's pretty known.
As we said, this is happening in the first week of preseason.
Exactly. So you're not going to be getting a guy who's currently employed. There's no fucking way that an NFL team is going to allow their coaches to go somewhere else while they need to prep for the season. The NFL is way too, college also. That's why I think it'll be an out of work guy. Like Hugh Jackson could be the coach of the Olympic team, which you laugh about it now. But that's a guy who's unemployed who could take. I mean, I think he's an offensive coordinator of some college or some shit. But that's a guy like that. John Gruden, probably not. I think he's blacklisted enough from the NFL to where they're not going to want to be associated with him.
NFL though,
right? But if it's John Gruden, then the NFL is going to say you're not getting any of our good players. Then they're going to kind of ban it. I don't think they're going to let him do that. And I did see a tweet, and I thought it was kind of funny and interesting. I believe it was from Ken Carman. He tweeted yesterday, when this passed, he said, I have a feeling that every player for the United States Olympic football team is still in college today. I was like, that's a good point. We might have a lot of guys who are going to be young and coming up and who don't get drafted, but they're good enough to where they're like, all right, you want to go in the Olympic team? So it'll be something to keep an eye on. I really don't know what to make of it yet. Obviously, we've never seen it. Are we getting talented players that are household names in the NFL? Are we getting UFL type players where they're really good? Like his name escapes me. Former Ohio State Damon Arnett, I think it was the first round pick, I believe, from the Raiders for defensive back. Great player. But went to the NFL and was a fucking head case, got caught with guns and got into a bunch of trouble. Now he's trying to resurrect his career in the UFL, and he did an interview the other day, and he said that, like, this saved his life. He's a new person, blah, blah, blah. He's trying to get another chance in the NFL, blah, blah, blah. I don't want to just focus on the Raiders here, but he could end up being a guy who could go play in the Olympics because he was a first-round talent. The talent's there, but he's not in the NFL because of his off-field choices. But he could go to the Olympics and get himself a gold medal, which would be cool. Henry Ruggs will be out of jail by then. Does he play wide receiver? He'd be pretty damn good.
We brought him up too.
Did you really? I would love to see Henry Ruggs out there.
He was one of the first people I actually brought up.
To see Henry Ruggs go win an Olympic medal after getting out of jail for murder would be pretty funny. So it's definitely something to keep an eye on. I don't know. It's the first time it's ever happened, so I don't know what to make of it. But I don't think we're going to see the star players from teams. I don't think they're going to be willing to risk that because all it's going to take is one dude to fucking tear an ACL, pop an Achilles, whatever, practicing or playing in an Olympic game, or getting in some bad collision, because it's going to happen. If you're running full speed, flags or no flags, you're going to make contact. It's inevitable. It's going to be a physical game still. We've all played backyard football in our lives, and there eventually hits a point where you accidentally run into somebody gets knocked out, whatever. If your favorite player does that, or if you're an owner of a team or the GM of a team and your best player gets fucked up in a flag football game, you're kicking yourself. You're not costing yourself a season. So I really think the talent pool is going to be very limited.
Robert Edwards. That's all
yeah.
I gotta say. Robert Edwards.
Absolutely. That's a great analogy, a great point.
It is. I said it's so heartbreaking for that guy. That guy was that future. Him and New England, dude. Can you imagine? It would have been Robert Edwards and Tom Brady.
Right?
Holy cow! Are you kidding me?
Shit happens. That's why you can't be too careful. You never know what's going to happen. And then, again, that's why, God forbid, the Ravens say, "All right, Lamar, go win the United States the gold," and he's out there juking and shit, and he's playing on some Olympic field, and some dude from fucking Russia steps on his ankle and he fucking dislocates his knee or something. You know what I mean? There's no way they're going to allow that. I don't see it. There's no way. So we'll talk more about it. Obviously, it just happened. The news just came out, so we'll get more information as we go along. We got a couple of years for them to figure out what they're going to do and fill the roster and blah, blah, blah. But that's the other thing, too, is like, I don't think you can field a team and just throw them together in a week and say, all right, go out and win. Like it's the fucking the longest yard with Adam Sandler. They're going to have to practice and like come up with plays and like, have a little camaraderie. That's why I don't think it's going to be star players. You're going to get some bottom of the roster guys, some, free agent players, as George said, possibly future retired players. Or not even retired, but future unsigned players because nobody wants them because they're old and kicked to the curb. That's who I think we might be looking at. So we'll see. But we got 3 years to talk about it. One more thing I wanted to get in here before we get to the end of the show, and that is the NBA playoffs. As I mentioned earlier, the Cavaliers, of course, got gentlemen swept by the Indiana Pacers 4-1. The Oklahoma City Thunder took them 7 games to beat the Denver Nuggets in a really good series. The Timberwolves gentlemen sweep the Golden State Warriors without Steph Curry, and the New York Knicks beat the Boston Celtics after Jason Tatum tore his Achilles, and he is fucked. Was that a prayer or celebration?
I did. After the Cavs were out, I was like, Celtics people were just all over me, and I'm going, be careful what you speaketh. I'm telling you. And as soon as they went out, I was like, thank you.
I personally, as I said earlier, I am only rooting for a team from the Western Conference because I have my buddies who are Knicks fans, and I cannot let the Knicks win a championship. I need them to, if they make the finals, that's fine, but they need to lose embarrassingly so I can rub that in my friend's face because I want to talk mad shit. Personally, I prefer it if they just don't even make the finals at all. If the Pacers can win this series, that would be fantastic. But also, I don't want the Pacers. I don't want the Pacers to win because they beat the Cavs. And however, on the flip side, and I jokingly said this to Ken Carman yesterday, I was tweeting with him, and I said every game the Pacers win, the further they go, makes me feel a little bit better about the Cavs because at least I can go, well, we lost to the champions back-to-back years if they win the championship because we lost to the Celtics last year. The Celtics won the championship. If we lost to the Pacers this year, the Pacers win the championship. I can go, at least we lost to the champions. Instead of if they get swept by the Knicks, we go, what the fuck? How do you lose to this team? So I'd rather the Pacers put up a big fight. And again, I'm pissed off that the Pacers beat the Cavs, but there's no real rivalry there. So for me, because I hate the Knicks so much, they are by far bottom of the rung team that I would even think about rooting for. The Knicks are fourth place. Pacers are third because, again, they beat the Cavs, so they can go fuck themselves, but they are third. And then first and second, Timberwolves and Thunder, I don't have a dog in that fight at all. Both of those teams, I'd be more than okay with either of them winning a championship. In my opinion, I might be rooting for the Thunder a little bit more just because the Thunder did it the right way. The Thunder sucked. The Thunder used to have James Harden, Russell Westbrook, Kevin Durant, and they went on to have to lose all three of them, never won a championship. Then they had to suck for years. They traded away all their good players. They acquired a ton of draft picks. They were really, really bad. They used those draft picks to acquire really good players. They trade for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who at the time was just kind of an okay player. He has now turned into, he just won the MVP officially today. They announced it. So they got a guy, they helped mold him into an MVP. They were the 1 seed for most of the entire season. And again, they did it the right way. They've just made really smart draft picks, really good decisions. They're a good franchise. They're a small market team. Oklahoma City is not a big market. So again, I want any team other than New York, especially, to win the championship. I like the smaller market teams. Minnesota, Oklahoma City, and Indiana are all very small market teams. So that's good. And but again, for the Western Conference, both teams kind of did it the right way. The Timberwolves have struggled. The Timberwolves have never even been to the NBA Finals in their entire franchise's career. They drafted Anthony Edwards. They traded for Rudy Gobert. They traded away Karl Anthony Towns in a move where everyone was like, what the fuck are you thinking? To get Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo, and they end up being in the Western Conference Finals because of it. So they've made some good decisions. They're building their team the right way. I really like the way they're going about things. So that's another team where kudos to them for doing things their own way, and patience has paid off, even though they got fucking smoked last night by the Thunder. But again, I am probably going to root for the Thunder as my number 1 team now remaining. I'll say Thunder 1, Timberwolves 2, and then very, very far distant 3rd and 4th, Pacers, Knicks. Right now, the Knicks are winning 48-45 in the second quarter. With 7 minutes to go in the half. Holy shit. So there's no defense being played in that game. That game, they might score 200 points
all-star game.
each. Yeah, that's terrible. So that game's happening right now. Again, the Thunder did beat up on the Timberwolves yesterday. Say again, George?
I said somebody must not have taken the over.
Yeah, no shit. The Pacers, I guess, are still shooting lights out like they did against the Cavs, which, again, the better they play in this series, the better I feel a little bit about the Cavs because I can kind of go, okay, they didn't just do it to us. They did it to other teams. That's kind of how I look at it, but I still don't feel good about it, but whatever. All right, everybody, that gets us to everyone's favorite segment, Just the Tip. And, of course, Kyle isn't here, but my tip is a book that I just finished a couple of weeks ago. It is called The Last Action Heroes. It is about the action superstars of the 80s, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone, Jean-Claude Van Damme, Steven Seagal, Dolph Lundgren, Jackie Chan. There's a lot about him. Chuck Norris, and I'm forgetting somebody. Bruce Willis. And it basically talks about all these guys and how they became the mega action heroes that they became in their movies. Excuse me. And I learned a ton. I realized after the fact that I had not seen a lot of these movies. I pretty much grew up because of my brother. My brother was a diehard Arnold Schwarzenegger fan. I grew up pretty much only watching Schwarzenegger movies, where when I read this book, I'm reading it and I go, holy shit, now that I think about it, I've never seen any of the Rambo movies. I never cared about Sylvester Stallone. I was born in 89, so by the time I was old enough to watch these movies, they were all, 15, 20 years old. I didn't care about them at the time I was a kid. So I realized I'd never watched a lot of these movies. So I decided over the last month or so that once I started reading this book, I started watching all these movies, as many as I could. So I have watched officially every Rambo movie ever made. I watched all those. They're super cheesy. They don't hold up, but I at least can say that I saw them. I watched a couple Kung Fu movies. I watched a couple Chuck Norris movies. I watched Missing in Action, I think it was called. Yeah. His movie. I watched that one. I watched
Delta Force.
I have not watched Delta Force yet. That's on my list, though. I have a lot more to go. I watched.
That one's got a lot of cameos in it. That's a good one.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to watch it. I made a huge long list. I watched what's the fighting one with Jean-Claude Van Damme? Kickboxer. Not Kickboxer. No, not Kickboxer. What's the other one? Bloodsport. I watched Bloodsport.
Bloodsport.
Super cheesy, but just a fun, I get it for the time. But I go back and watch these. And again, as I said, these movies do not hold up. But I'm still going to watch them just so I can stay. Yeah, exactly. I look at it back then and I'm like, this was probably fucking amazing. But for right now, watching it, I'm like, how the hell could anybody actually sit through this? But I get it. Most of them are pretty quick. They're like an hour and a half. What's up?
See the Street Fighter movie.
Oh, I've seen that. I watched that when I was a kid because I played the video game. I actually rewatched that one the other day too, just for fun. It's on Amazon Prime. Not good, but I was like, whatever. I remember this when I was a kid. So yeah, I've just been rewatching all these old action movies and just trying to, just to say that I've actually seen them. But this book was really cool. A lot of detail about how these guys came about in their career, how they landed some of their roles, and not a lot of gossipy shit. It's more so just like behind the scenes. It really, the biggest thing that I took away from this book is how much of a fucking weirdo Steven Seagal is. He's always come off as very strange, but then to read about it in this book about how like he literally is like one of the weirdest people on earth, and makes me want to go back and watch some of his movies too. Like I've seen Under Siege, I've seen some of the bigger ones, but like I want to go back and watch some of the low budget, not exactly household name movies that these guys were in, so I can just kind of laugh at it. So I still have a long list of movies to get through with that, and I will one day say that I've seen them all. So we'll go from there. But that is my tip for the week, and that is it for today's show. George, do you have a tip or anything you want to share?
No, sir. When I saw you popped up that book, it's like there's been a lot of people, ironically, just at the same time here. Everybody's rewatching some late 80s movies, and I was just like, all right, there must be a theme going on, and I wasn't told about it. and it's funny because it's, you guys and my buddy Mick, he's also very late 80s, I think, and Clint being a 90s baby, it's like, yeah, I never saw any of those. It's like you go back and watch them, but yeah, it's kind of one of those things of, back when I was a kid, it was a Rob Zombie movie called The Prince of Darkness, and it scared the bejeebies out of me at the time.
And then when you go back and watch it as you're older, you're like, what the hell was I even afraid of?
It's like, oh my gosh, this is so bad. And it's like,
for me,
horror movies bore me.
Yeah. For me, when I go back and watch these movies again, when I was a kid, my brother was a diehard Arnold fan. I'm the youngest of three. I have an older brother and an older sister. My brother loved Arnold Schwarzenegger, so he watched Predator all the time. We were watching True Lies, Commando. I watched all the time. Twins was hilarious.
Hercules?
I've never seen that, actually. That's on my list to go back and watch. I want to watch Hercules, and I want to see the Conan movie because I've never seen Conan the Barbarian either.
Yes, Conan. Oh, my gosh. You want to talk about cheesy.
So I've got those on my list as well. So don't you worry. I'll watch those for sure.
On that.
Oh, trust me. I've read all. And the book really goes into detail about how shitty these movies were and how cheap they were and how poorly made they were, but like how people still just loved it and ate it up. But yeah, because my brother was such a big fan of Arnold, that's pretty much all I watched. I mean, I saw the original Predator movie like more times than I can count. Great movie. But then I read about, all these Stallone movies, and I'm like, fuck, I've never seen any of these. Like, now that I think about it, because when I was a kid, I kind of I was young and I didn't know any better. I was like, okay, Arnold's the best guy. So what do I care about Sylvester Stallone for? Why would I watch his movie? Why would I watch Bloodsport, whatever? And then now as I'm older, I'm like, I can watch all of them. What's the point? Who gives a shit? So I
Over the Top
starting to do that. Which one?
Over the Top.
Yeah, that's on there. Yep, I made it's a long list of movies.
I was going to say, I bet it's a long list.
I watched. At first, I did all the Rambos in order, and then I was like, well, I don't want to just stick with one actor. I'll kind of get burned out. So that's why I started switching it up. So I watched all 5 Rambo movies, and then I watched Missing in Action. Then I watched, I think it's called Cop Story with Jackie Chan. I watched that one. It was one of his first movies from China. Which was excellent. A lot of great action in that one. Then I watched Bloodsport. I forgot what else, but I've been going kind of in and out of order of just like mixing up the different actors so I don't get burned out on one guy. So again, I have a long list of movies. I'm doing it in no particular order. A lot of these movies, because they're so old, they're all for free. They're on like Tubi and shit like that, which is fine with me. But yeah, it's cool. I've been watching all of them.
Like I said, my favorite Chuck Norris, Delta Force is one that's on the top of my list with him.
Yeah, that's on there. That was one that was brought up a lot in the book. And that's the cool thing about this book, was that it goes into detail about guys' like histories. And it says basically that, like, yeah, Seagal was a piece of shit. Like, everybody hated him. He was a fucking weirdo. Then it goes into about how Chuck Norris was like one of the nicest, coolest people you'll ever meet. Dolph Lundgren, it goes into his like rise to fame of how he was just a normal guy, like he was a model, and then all of a sudden became this huge blockbuster dude. It talks about Jean-Claude Van Damme, how he just basically kept working and working and working till he finally got some parts in movies. But it was just really, really, honestly, it was a very interesting book. I enjoyed every bit of it. Talks about how humble Arnold Schwarzenegger is. He kind of comes off as like a real cocky dickhead, but they said that like he was so nice, and like if you wanted him to do a movie, he would do it, and he would give his 100% effort. He was very, very like willing to do whatever. He would take that extra step and embarrass himself or do whatever they asked of him. After every take, he'd come by and be like, hey, how was that? Was that okay? Like, he always wanted to make sure that he did a good job. So very humble, things like that. Stallone, on the other hand, not so much. Stallone went out and bought like mink coats and was like fucking super Hollywood and kind of a douche. So that's kind of another reason why I don't think I like those guys, because just knowing that they were kind of douchey in real life. And then I found out like certain things about Bruce Willis when they were trying to get him to do Die Hard. Like, he wasn't even the first choice to do it. He had a lot of issues with some of the with even coming back to do a second Die Hard movie. He didn't want to. They really had to force him to do it. So just really cool insight in the book of things that I had no idea about. I really like books like that. So definitely check this one out if you get a chance. It's a quick read. I think it was like 300 something pages, but you blow through it pretty quickly because each chapter is just about a different actor, a different era, and then you learn a bunch of inside shit, and you're like, oh wow, I didn't know that. So really enjoyed it. I enjoyed this one a lot. So check it out. With that being said, that is going to do it for this week's edition of Talking About Balls. I believe we're off next week, and then we'll come back in 2 weeks is the plan. So we'll go from there. He didn't have a tip himself, but my tip is to check out Dueling Aces for George's show on Tuesday nights. Check it out. Unfortunately, George moved to Tuesdays, which makes it tough on me because it's my solo baby night. So like yesterday, I saw you guys were live, but I was in the middle of trying to put Teddy down. I don't know if she has teeth coming in or what, but she has been a fucking nightmare to get to sleep. She just sits there and stares at the ceiling till like 8:30 when she's supposed to be asleep by 7:30. Even last night, she woke me up at about 3 a.m. It was my night to take care of her. Woke up crying, yelling in the monitor. I had to go get her a pacifier. I was up till 4 something. So typical. That's what happens with a baby, but
put a Bluetooth speaker with us on. We'll put her right to sleep, I'm sure.
She's already got white noise playing, and I don't think it can get any worse than that. So
bruiser on, you never know.
That's true. Anything's possible. But thank you guys for watching. We'll talk to you guys again in 2 weeks. I can't say go Cavs or anything like that. We have nothing really happening. Just go Guardians, I guess. But who really cares? Cleveland, That was for you.